Hey, shout out to y'all. I apologize, my live dropped, but I was like, this is a perfect segue because what I was talking about was how women um they get into these long term marriages and then they get divorced, right? Which, in the back of my mind, and by the way, I'm just kind of setting everything up. In the back of my mind, there was a video that I was thinking about. Um, there was a video that I was thinking about, and I was like, you know what? Since I'm redoing this, right, I might as well share this because, and I'm gonna be jumping a lot. I'm gonna be jumping around a lot in this video. Um, oh, boo boo. I get my son out of frame. Let me move some stuff. There you go. Move this table. I don't want him on there. Um, try not to have him on there, but he's trying to figure out what I'm up to. But yeah, y'all know me. I'm always racing the clock before my daughter wake up. My son is usually pretty manageable, but I wanted to share this to kind of drive my point home. And I'm gonna jump around a lot with this. This is kind of, I don't know, probably gonna be like a reaction video. Now, you guys have been patient, so please bear in mind, this is a TikTok video. There's a lot of jumping, a lot of skipping, a lot of relooping. But I did want to share this. Let me make sure my sound and stuff is good too. Let me make sure my sound and stuff is all right. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through this video to kind of try to prove my point from the first part.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising family. I hope all is well. Welcome to my first live ever on TikTok. So I hope I don't screw up, but
I'm still working on this, you guys. Bear with me here. Let me move this here.
so welcome. I did do a title. I'm not even sure if it is on there. I typed it in. I'm on my way to work. I am Miss B Bohemian Soul. Welcome to my first live again on TikTok. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into this topic. And I have been thinking about this for a while. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do this. So the title of this live is Why So Many Black Women, single divorced Black women over the age of 40, say no to a second, third, maybe fourth marriage. And I'm basically going to just talk to that. It is a question. It is a question that I had before I became a single divorced woman at the age of 52. I was divorced, single divorced woman at the age of 52. I was divorced from my ex-husband after a 14-year marriage last year. So why so many of us say no to a second, third, or possibly even fourth marriage?
This goes back to the point of what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that when men get married, this idea of a second, third, fourth marriage, I don't think a man ever gets down on one knee and be like, Yeah, I'm just gonna be with you for the first, second, or third time, or maybe I'll pick somebody later. This is a point that I was trying to stress in my first live, is that women, I don't think that we appreciate how much men are invested in their marriage, you know? Um, and marriage, no, it's not easy. It's not a cakewalk. Nothing in life is truly a cakewalk. But just the sheer comfort of being like, you know, maybe I'll say yes to a second, a third, or a fourth marriage. That's not a common thought here. Well, come here.
But let me do a little bit of backstory. So, in my marriage, the majority of women that I consider to be my friends, are black women, and yeah, are black women. And so I remember one sister who I've known her maybe like I'm known her 15, 20 years. I remember speaking to her like 3 years ago. I'm a licensed cosmetologist as well. So I do hair and all that stuff, specializing in natural hair stuff, whatever. So I went over to her house to do her hair. And I said to her, now this sister, she had been married one time, first marriage, over 20 years. Her and her ex-husband have 3 children. They're grown now. Thank you all for joining also. So she has a very successful business. She became an entrepreneur with her ex-husband. Um, and she has a very successful business, and he had his business as well. Swipe left to view real time. Okay, I'm not doing all that. Sorry, y'all. Like I said, this is my first time doing this. So I went to her house, and and now mind you, at this point, she's divorced from her ex-husband, and their children now are grown. And she's been in a relationship with a long distance relationship. Children now are grown, and she's been in a relationship.
You know what? I kind of appreciate the loops on this. This is something that I wanted to pay mind to as well. This whole idea of, I'm starting to realize, and I'm gonna start getting away from just this conversation about black people and black women. Just to segue from the subject real quick, the Fourth of July for me was amazing. It was amazing. It was phenomenal. I loved it, because for the first time for the Fourth of July, uh, I spent it with a white family. I know this is just random, and I just had to bring out that point, and it was so eye opening for me. I might just do a video about it because it just showed me that people are people, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh no, I just discovered that other races of people are people. It's to say, I hear the same attitude from, not that I'm saying I've heard it from this white family, but I hear the same problems with white people that I hear with black people too. And a lot of women's issues, shout out to Bill Burr. I remember he was saying that, when people were asking him, because he's white and his wife is black, and people were like, hey, you're married to a black woman. What is that like? And he was like, it's still a woman. And that goes back to my point of my experience with the 4th of July. It's like when I was hanging out with the family, I noticed that me and the other wife, she was white, I was black. We had the same thoughts. Like race had nothing to do with it. So like I just kind of pulled up this video because of my original theme when I started this channel was looking at the black family unit, the black family structure. And I think I'm just gonna announce today that I'm getting away from that. I'm getting away from that because this whole thought that you have your own business, that your children are grown and all this other stuff, all women across the board have this mentality that these things are markers of success for themselves. And oftentimes it's only for themselves. I haven't once heard her say, what this man has done, how this man has had a hand in raising these grown three children. Like for women, when your children are grown, that is a major achievement. The reason why I say that is, right now I have two toddlers, and my son, he's potty training, and that makes me feel really good about myself. It makes me feel really good about myself because he's walking, he says a few words here and there. But the fact that he came from being a helpless newborn to now he's walking around, I can only imagine when he's grown and out of the house, just taking it one day at a time. For a woman, that is a huge deal, right? But nobody thinks about how that man feels. Nobody thinks about what that man sacrificed all that time. And I think it's so selfish that when women get married and they go, "Oh, my kids are grown now. I can go about my business." For a man, I'm thinking like that has to be hurtful to say the least, because I don't think when a man just keeps pulling and pushing through a marriage that his thought is, when my kids get grown, I'm done with this woman. Um, the majority of time, what I'm seeing is that these men, they do everything they can to make this marriage work and to tough it out. And even after the kids leave, we're gonna try to figure out if we can fix this issue.
with a long distance relationship. And I said to her, I said, I'm going to say Janice. I'm going to say Janice, that's not her name. But I said, Janice, would you ever consider, getting married again? And I was like, she's at the time, she's in her, I think, mid to early 40s. Again, have been married over 20 years. And she said, absolutely not. And I was like, what? What do you mean? She was like, absolutely not. She said, did that. It ended, her marriage did not end in a good way. It did not end on I would say, a positive note. There was infidelity.
I just have to say, to be like her marriage didn't end in a good way. What relationship, let alone a marriage, ends in a good way? And of course, we're gonna go down a classic road of infidelity or he was abusive and all these other things. But I just had to point that part out.
Fidelity. And let me just be very clear. It takes two for everything. It takes two for a thing, and I'm speaking from personal. I'm speaking from my personal. It takes two for a thing to work or not. All right. I don't feel that anything ever happens one sided. So a marriage is not successful because of one individual, nor is a divorce because of one person. It takes two for everything. But back to what she said. She said absolutely not. She would never do it again. I asked her why. And she was like, I'm good. I did it. Um, and I got three beautiful children out of it. I wish him nothing but the best, she said. Um, but she was like, absolutely not. She's like, I have my businesses, because she has multiple businesses. I'm successful. She is in a relationship with a man. They've been in a relationship. At this point, they have probably been in a relationship about 4 or 5 years, and it is working well. He has his place, she has his place. And she's like, it just, it would be too much, me giving of myself, and I'm not doing that anymore. That was the first situation.
So there you go. Took a lot of combing through. We have our own successful businesses. Our kids are grown. It takes two to make it successful. And she hit the nail right on the head, right? This whole, it takes too much of myself. I'm gonna let her put in her own words. Marriage is very selfless.
absolutely not. She's like, I have my businesses, because she has multiple businesses. I'm successful. She is in a relationship with a man. They've been in a relationship. At this point, they have probably been in a relationship about 4 or 5 years, and it is working well. He has his place, she has his place.
Now, here's another thing too. Imagine as a man, from a man's perspective, you want to marry a woman, she divorced you, and then she finds a way to be committed to somebody else for years. I don't think any man gets down on one knee and proposes marriage and thinks, one day when the kids are grown and on their own, you know, she's gonna go off and be with somebody else. Like, I started out the first slide that got cut off. I started out with talking about how women have anxiety. And it's so easy for women to have anxiety. It's so easy to talk about how a woman feels because, a woman, eh, you know, woman's not a threat. A woman is um, expected to be weak, expected to be vulnerable, expect to look for somebody to save her, if you will. As for that man initiates marriage, ends up divorced, ends up single, and now it's like she's off to be with somebody else, and everybody perceive her to be successful. Everybody looks at how her kids are grown, things like that. And I can't imagine how that man feels. I can't imagine what that man is going through to where it's like she's gone on to go be with somebody else. In this final point, I'm gonna play it back again. It takes too much selflessness to be married. These days, you can't get mad at men for not being committed, men for not approaching, men for not wanting to be married, because this is what they got to look forward to. The idea that once my kids are more independent, she's going to go on and be with somebody else and be perceived as almost like a survivor, a survivor of a bad marriage, right?
And she's like, it just, it would be too much me giving of myself, and I'm not doing that anymore. That was the first situation. Then there was another sister who I've known since I was a teenager, and she had been married to her ex-husband, and these are black women. She had been married to her ex-husband over 25 years. They got married, I think, like right out of school, right out of high school. The first person did as well. The first person I spoke to, and I'm gonna say her. This second person, her name is Joan, and I was actually delivering some because I do herbal remedies and things like that. So I was delivering some herbal remedies to her, and I think it was like the first time I was delivering to her. Now, mind you, when her and her ex-husband got divorced, this was probably like 6 years ago. And she was in her mid 40s at the, or mid to late 40s at the time. And I I remember going to deliver to her, and I was like, "Oh, you and so, you guys moved here?" And she was like, "No, we're divorced." And I was like, "Oh no, no!" I was like, "Oh, I thought you guys were gonna be like the couple," because so many people that I grew up with got married, right? A lot of people that I grew up got married, had children, and I'm saying the town in which I grew up. And she was like, no. I was like, oh, no. She was like, oh, She was like, Pete, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. And I was like, what? She was like, no, I'm good. He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. She was like, we sold the house, split the cost. They have two children who were grown at the time of their divorce. And she's like, I'm like, would you ever consider like getting married again? And she said, nah. She said, nope. She said no, and I was like, why? She was like, no, I'm good with myself. And
Notice the common theme. It's always they're successful, they're divorced, they got the money, they split everything. As a man, it's like, this man works hard, builds a home just to sell it, split the cost when the kids get grown. I'm starting to see a common theme here. And the reason is always, nah, myself. I'm focusing on myself. I'm starting to see why men are like, no, we good, right? And at first, when I was looking up, when I was looking at content and things were coming across my feed, I was thinking to myself, you know, there's so much talk about the disparity of the black community and all this other stuff, but this is really across the board. This isn't just black people. Um, and I just have to say this too, since this is gonna be like, I guess this is gonna be like my departure video. Um, for now of this whole black topics thing because I'm starting to realize not only is it not only a black topics thing, but it's also um, there's the same thought like this whole when my kids are grown, I can do whatever I want to do. you know, there's never the side of it's always the woman and the kids. It's never a conversation about the men, what they're sacrificing, what they're going through, how much time they put into it, how much effort they put into it. Um, it's like women, we look for figuring out how many of the spoils we can walk away with. And I've never once heard her say, you know, this man worked hard to make sure these women and children had something and he ended up losing it. And now instead of having somebody for the rest of his life, he's got to pick up the pieces of his own life while these women look successful. But I have to say these two things. The whole greeting of Grand Rising, I already knew we were in trouble right there. You know, that already tells me who I'm listening to, who I'm dealing with. The second thing to look out for is this whole, I was doing this, I was in cosmetics, I was selling this, I was door to door. There's this new wave where men are not, it's not just that men are not approaching women anymore, it's also men are not going for chicks that are broke. Men are not going for women who are unstable. And shout out to them. I'm glad they're at a point where they're not messing with women who are practically scavengers because these women, they're just going out and I feel like, and she always talk about that everybody's always, oh, I was young when I got married. And it's like, this is what I'm thinking too about that. There's always a narrative, there's always a justification on why the woman ended up the way that she ended up. But there's never a thought about what that man sacrificed, what that man went through, how that man stuck it out for decades. There's never a conversation about that. Oh, they got married out of high school. Okay, you won early. You knew who you was going home to. You knew who you was going through life with. You knew whoever you had children with, how they move. And unfortunately for them, as time went on and challenges arose, you bailed. So I'll go a little bit more with this, and then eventually I'm gonna have to put dinner on. Y'all know how I do. But I just thought I should stop in and do a part two because this was actually in the back of my mind. Like on one end, I understand where this woman is coming from because there are so many challenges and ups and downs in life. But I think what people like her are missing is that men go through those challenges and they decide that he decide that he's going to go through that challenge with one particular woman. Yeah, there are other issues. Yeah, there's infidelity and all these other things like that that happen in a marriage. And I'm not minimizing that. But what I'm saying is the other side, for the women's side, for us to be so self-absorbed and always thinking about what we're going through and what our interests are is really unfair to the men.
The question is, why so many black women, single, now single, divorced black women, choose not to get married again, would choose not to get married again? My mother, married to my father for 19 years, divorced. I asked my mother years. My mother's has transitioned. She's no longer, here. She transitioned in 1997. But I remember asking my
Well, now,
mom, maybe about when I was in my early 20s. I said, Ma, because she had a friend, so in the black culture, in the black foundational black American culture, when we are women, that are divorced, and we get when we are women, that are divorced, and we get a friend, we get a friend. No. So my mom had a friend who was her friend up until her special friend up until she passed. They had been in a relationship for about 12 years. um and I asked her, I said, Mom, I said, would you ever marry, I'm gonna say John, that's not his name. I'm gonna say, Mom, would you ever, I asked her, I said, would you ever marry John? And she said no. She said, he's asked me several times, saying, we would, be able to come together, and, if somebody got sick, we'd be able to take care of one another. And my mother flat out told him, she was like, I got two children
mm,
grown. Anything happens to me, they'll make sure I'm all right.
mm,
And I said, Mommy, why wouldn't you want to get married again? And she said, I don't have that. I don't want to make that sacrifice anymore. Now, mind you, my parents divorced because of my dad's infidelity. My dad actually stepped out on my mom and had a child. So, excuse me, my mother's youngest sister, this is going to be the last example, then I'll talk to my situation. Same thing, my mother's sister, this is going to be the last example, then I'll talk to my situation. Same thing, my mother's younger sister, they're like 2 years apart, have been married to my uncle. They never had children, because my aunt couldn't have children. And basically the same thing. They have been married about 20 years. And this was my aunt's, though, second marriage. My mother's first marriage, and then the other two women, their first marriages. This was my aunt's second marriage. And she, there was a lot of, for her, it was a lot of abuse. There was, my uncle was abusive, emotionally abusive to her, and towards the end, he became physically abusive to her.
and that's the thing, you know, infidelity and abuse. Got him starting to sound like one other content creator, but I didn't know how deep this was. I didn't know how common this was. Like, this is helping me with my video earlier when I was like, I have a hard time complaining about my marriage. I do. There are things, but I have a hard time complaining because I can't really, I don't think about me so much to where I don't care about my family. And I'm not trying to take a jab at anybody. I'm just speaking very loosely. It's so easy to say, oh, he was always a cheater or he was abusive or all these other things. But if you guys listen to the same thing over and over and over again, why would you never marry again? Because I have to care about somebody else. Because he's over here talking about, if I ever get sick or something, I have somebody. Oh, well, I got my kids. I don't need to worry about you. You better figure it out. Men are getting to the point where they're skipping being married, and they're just giving these women what they deserve. They're letting them be side pieces. They're letting them be options. And it makes sense now. Like my question used to be, there was all these terrible statistics about, the black community and all this other stuff. And it's really, like I said, it's really all communities. Bobo, come here. It's really all communities. And I'm sitting here, and the more that I think about this, the more that I realize that women are selfish. Like women, even when I was in my funk earlier, I couldn't even get out the words of what was going wrong in my marriage because it wasn't necessarily what was going wrong as much as it was about life is life in right now. And life is gonna life whether you're single or you're married. Life is gonna life regardless, right? And just to hear this idea that, oh, I'll never marry again because I got my kids to take care of me. I don't really need a partner, as I'm getting up in age, or I'll never get married again because you're abusive, or because you cheat, or whatever. All yet and still, they're single and they're dating and they're having long-term commitment with these other men. And I guess it's just so easy for them to just pick up and walk away. And men are getting to the point where they're going, well, I'm not getting married so that if some years down the road things get rough or you get unhappy, you get to drag my name and talk about how I was abusive for umpteen years or 20 something years. Or you get to put me in this laundry list of Tyler Perry movies on how you were such a great woman and I treated you so badly and now you're free to live your truth. I'm starting to see it. Like this idea of submitting to another human being. I think the reality is getting married as a woman means that you're on your husband's program. And even though that's such a thing to shun for most people, women would be surprised how much men are on ours. Men, their lives revolve around their wives, even if they're unhappy with it, even if life isn't going great. He's still thinking, I'm going to provide for my wife. I'm still going to take care of my wife. Yeah, we care about the kids, but men, they care about their wives, and all yet and still their wives are going, well, this isn't working for me. This is not what I want. I can't do what I want to do. And I'm starting to realize that these women, they have kids so that they can have a fallback plan.
And her thing is, my money is my money, and I'm not sharing that with anybody else. I would never want to get married again. So fast forward to me, and for those of you that are still watching, thank you for watching. So I was married 14 years to my children's dad. We were married for 14 years. And the thing is, with my ex-husband, I've known him since we were like fourth and fifth grade. So we married too quick. We met each other in August of 2010. We were married December 25th of 2010. I'm just giving you guys a little back history. But let me answer the question. Why so many, pertaining to me, I'm at work, turn the car off. Why so many black women over the age of 40 divorce say that they will never get married again? Today is May what? 27th, 2025. I've been divorced since December 18th of 2024. I am a 53-year-old single divorced woman. I am not a single parent because my ex-husband is very much active in my children's lives.
And that's the new trend. That's the new trend. There's this new thing where women are saying just because the father is active in the child's life, that does not make them a single parent. That's not true. There are plenty of women who never married at all, who have very active fathers in their children's lives. They are still single mothers. I am starting to change in so many different ways, doing these vlogs, doing these lives. I am starting to grow in ways that I never imagined. And I'm so grateful that I started this. And shout out to my husband, Lil Quarter Trucker, who actually pushed me to do this because it's very therapeutic. It's teaching me so much. This is what I'm getting to. I'm starting to respect single mothers who never married because the divorcees who did marry and have their children within wedlock are getting to a point where they're going, oh, I'm not a single mom because my ex-husband is in my children's lives. If you are single and you are a mother, you are a single mother. And I'm starting to realize that, yeah, there are guys on the internet that they use this term, they're bashing women these days, talking down to women for, you know, didn't marry before they carry and all these other things. But what I'm starting to realize is it's not it's not them who's really um it's not these guys who are trying to hold women accountable that are the meanest, for lack of better terms. It's it's other women. This is what I mean. Women who have been married, they feel like they outrank the women who were never married. And in my opinion, the single women who never did marry and had children, they seem to be more appealing to me. I see, like, after looking at all this, I feel like women who were honest enough to say that I don't have what it takes to commit, I respect them a whole lot more. I respect them. At least they're honest. At least they're upfront. Because now marriage is kind of becoming like a farce. It's becoming like a gimmick, and women are gaming the system. And I am so sorry for anybody that might watch this content and be like, "Well, duh." But for me, I was just a normal working person before I was a stay-at-home mom, and my eyes are opening up. Not no longer walking around with my head down, not trying to get on live, not trying to put myself out there. I am so glad that I've decided not to continue to move that way because I am learning so much. Women are opting to be single. It's not that the men are not doing what they're supposed to do. It's not that they're abusive. It's not infidelity. It's that women are doing what they want to do. And going back to this idea of having anxiety, it's not necessarily even anxiety. It's the need to be in control, the illusion of being in control before we got married. It's still getting us. We're still falling for this idea that we're successful, we're self-sufficient, or we're independent and all these other things. When really it's like we're in a survival mindset, is what I'm starting to realize. Like, we're finding ways to get through life, and unfortunately, we're finding men to help us do it. So I just wanted to do a part two because my first live had dropped out. And as I was doing that live, I was thinking to myself, this video, I was thinking about this video in the back of my mind. Um, and this kind of cured me of my anxiety because yeah, it's hard, but you're not by yourself, right? Well, for me. um, for the woman like how I just had on before, shout out to her. But I'm starting to realize like that's the norm. That's what the rest of the world is dealing with. That's what the rest of the world is. And we got to do better. We got to do better. So, yeah, I did talk about the things that I was worried about, but I think that the problem is that so often women, we're thinking about ourselves and we're not being mindful of our husbands. And like I said before, we got to do better, right? But I appreciate y'all coming in on live and everything. It's about time for me to get dinner put on and everything. And I'll catch y'all on the next stream.